Hey everyone, welcome to this week's webinar. Here's Brenndan Cooper. We're at Tiffany Green's Golf Club in Kansas City, Missouri. As always, we're brought to you by Medicus Golf and Kick-Ass Golf. If you have any questions, just put them in the sidebar, and we'll get to those as soon as we quit talking about whatever we're going to talk about.
Our long-winded answers.
Our long-winded answers, which this week is a scoring zone from 100 yards and in. So before we get started, I know I got a little sidebar question that said, why is 100 yards called the scoring zone? Well, typically that's when you have a wedge in your hand.
Yep.
So anytime you have a wedge or a putter, you are in the scoring zone. Now, if you have to hit 7-iron from 100 yards, that would not be your scoring zone.
Right. Everybody's going to be a little bit different as far as their exact scoring zone. Right.
And some of the tour guys hit wedge from 150, so
yeah,
that's their scoring zone.
I don't have that problem.
I don't either. So I'm kind of in the 25 to 30 yard range. But anyway, so that's why it's called the scoring zone. It's basically when you have a wedge or a putter in your hand.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, we spend a lot of time with our players in short game, different drills, different setups, different kinds of lies, and they're all involving the wedge and their putter.
Yeah. Yeah, we spend so much time with that because really a big difference between good players and higher handicap players a lot of times is just short game. And I know that if you're like Chuck and I, we practice and play all the time, and we work on our short game all the time, which is about like everybody else, which is none.
Not.
But if you really want to save some strokes and really improve your game, spend more time working 100 yards and in. I mean, it will pay huge dividends.
Right. You know, there was a percentage base done a few years ago, and the driver, wedge, and putter accounted for 78% of all shots.
Yeah.
So you can be super long. You can be bubble long.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you can't hit your wedge, it doesn't make any difference. Or you could be Corey Pavin, short, but a good wedge player. All right?
Yeah.
That's how he's able to win tournaments.
Exactly.
So it's a combination of having all those things put together. You'll notice we've got a little bar behind us. And the reason for this is we're going to go through a couple of different things that you can do when you're practicing, because your 100 yards and in, depending on where the pin is, it's going to kind of depend on what type of shot that you want to play.
Exactly.
You know, better players are trying to hit wedges at you know, about a 30-degree angle, all right, to hit those wedges. In fact, Martin Hall, a good friend of ours, talked about that just the other night. So we kind of set that up to show you, and Brenndan's got a 60-degree wedge here. And so if you'll just set right here, Brenndan, so if he wants to hit a lower shot, let's say with his 60, all he's going to do is position the ball back and move his weight and everything forward. And as he takes it back, he's going to keep everything forward. Yeah. So he's actually going to de-loft the club even more coming into the strike. But now with the same club, and he wanted to hit a little higher, he's going to change his setup to a little more balanced, maybe slightly favoring that leg, with the hands a little bit behind or at least even with the club head, so he can use the sole, the back of it. So now when he makes that same swing and he comes down to it, he's trying to line the shaft more vertically, which will give it a higher trajectory. So once you show him first the low shot, I'm going to back over here. You guys won't be able to see him as much, but you will be able to see the ball as it goes into this netting.
Live TV here.
Live TV, we're hitting the short knockdown shot. So that's a 60-degree wedge, and you saw how low that ball took off. All right, so now we want to hit it a little bit higher and a little bit more trajectory here. So he's going to change his setup. Ball's going to go slightly forward. The hands are going to be either even or behind the club at address. And now he's going to use the trailing edge to hit it over that top. And you can see how high that came out. Great job, under pressure. That's why he's a pressure player.
I only practiced those shots for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, he's been down here since 2 o'clock working on this. And this is off of a really tight line. This is just indoor-outdoor carpet, folks. So if you use it, the wedge, properly, You can hit all those shots in between them.
Right, and that's what we spend a lot of time with our students with, is just understanding the principles and the properties of how clubs are designed to strike balls, and different things you can do with it, not really to, I guess in a way, manipulate it a little bit, but to get the right trajectory, because we're always working on trajectory with our students, because that, at the end of the day, that's going to dictate rollout, spin, and a lot of other things around the greens.
Right, and the Wedges aren't a distance club. They are a scoring club. So, you know, I mean, I had this guy a few years ago, and he said, well, I get my lob wedge 150 yards. I go, really? So what do you do at 130? Putt? I mean, you don't have any clubs left, okay? So it's not about how far you hit
Right.
it. It's about how accurately you hit it.
Yeah.
So you have to control the distance and the trajectory. On other webinars, we've talked about how you can take one wedge and hit 9 different trajectories and distances, okay, just by varying setup and exit locations, right? So if you go back to the webinars, you'll find those up there. It's called 9 different wedge shots. So if you practice with that, that'd be really good. And then as you get from that 100 yards and in, again, if it takes you something more than a wedge from 100 yards, let's say it's a 9-iron or more, then find out where you have a sand wedge in your hand. That's your scoring zone.
Yep.
So now that you've had a good wedge shot, you still have to make the putt, right? So how many people out there, and I can tell you it's a very small percentage, actually practice 3-foot putts? And not very many.
The birds are chirping.
Yeah. How many practice 20-foot putts? Even less.
Or let's rephrase that, if they do practice it,
If they
do
do
they practice it the right way?
So, you know, there's a number of drills that we've given in the past using a 2x4 to put your putter up against to work on your path and your face. There are a number of training aids available that you can do that with. But, you know, again, if you can be a much better wedge player, get it closer to the hole, all right, which is called proximity to the hole. If you look up on PGA Tour on our stats, look at proximity to the hole and they'll give you all the different ranges,
Different yardage ranges and everything, because, you know, exactly what Chuck is saying, you know, sometimes a student will come to us and say, well, I can't make a putt. I'm missing all my putts for par. Okay, well, what distance are they? Well, 15 to 20 feet. Well, it's not your putting. We need to get those short shots in there a little closer.
Right.
You know?
We need to get the approach and the wedge shots closer. We need to minimize that amount. So work on that from whatever your scoring zone is, and change. Use a variety of clubs. Just remember that if you want to hit the lowest trajectory shot, you're going to move the ball back, you're going to lean towards target, and you're going to move the handle more forward. It's going to give you the lowest shot.
And that's that leading edge. You're wanting to try to feel like you're hitting it with that leading edge.
Right. So you have 3 edges. You have the leading edge, you have the trailing edge, and then you have the sole.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm trying to hit this with a sole shot, you notice I have a little bit of forward lean here. I'm just trying to get it with the sole. Now I'm trying to get it with the leading edge, and now I'm trying to get it with the trailing edge or the backside.
Yeah. So
we actually had somebody on our Edgify channel ask us about hitting short shots and flipping the wrist. Well, the wrist, if you're hitting just a normal wedge shot, it kind of looks this way. If you're trying to hit a softer shot, you're coming into impact, and then your wrist is going this way, or cupping upward like that.
Yeah.
Right? You're not trying to make impact.
Right, exactly.
Right?
It's always post.
Right. It's always post impact for what you want to do with your exit. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anything else you want to add to this?
No, I think the big thing is just really stressing the fact of how important it is to take a little bit of time and practice your short game. And even if you're at home, you can just inside just take a wedge and just practice different setups and different swings and just check certain key alignments or keys or whatever it is you're working on, and just get those feels, because again, we're just changing kind of what the club's doing right when it's hitting the ball.
Right. Right. All right, so we've got a bunch of questions, so let's get to those. All right, so the first question is from John. Where should you place the ball in your stance for different kind of lies? Hard pan, short grass, fluffy grass?
Well, John, if it's, let's do the fluffy grass first. If it's fluffy and the ball is up in the air, a couple things. One is, let's say the ball is 2 inches above the hard surface of the ground. Well, first, choke it just a bit, about 2 inches as far as length, because it's acting like it's teed up. And if it is above there, you can move the ball up in your stance just a little bit. If you get it too far back, you're going to catch it pretty high on the face, so you may need to move the ball up a little bit. If it's hard pan, or let's think of it as cart path. If you were hitting a ball on the cart path, would you feel comfortable having the ball more, back up a little bit, up here in your stance, middle, or way back? I would probably go more middle-ish than anything. Right. So, you know, ask yourself that question. You know, if it was on the cart path, where would I feel comfortable doing it? Well, I'd put it more middle-ish.
Right. And if the ball's setting up in that high grass, you also have to remember that if you come down in a normal angle of attack, having your hands forward like this, the chances are is you're going to go under the ball. Again, it's going to hit high in the face, which means it's not going to travel as far, right? And you're going to take too much of a divot. Yeah. So hold that club. Don't set it down into the grass. Hold it at the level the ball is at, and try to keep it at that level. Right. Because the more you steepen that angle of attack, the higher you're going to hit this up in the face. Right.
About the only time you want to try to steepen that angle is if the ball is sitting down in the grass.
Right.
When the ball is down, you want to steepen it. If the ball is up, like Chuck said, don't try to steepen it. Just try to swing shallow with the grass then, or the ball.
And if the ball's down in that deep grass, move it back towards your back foot.
Yeah.
You know, to steepen that angle.
Chop it out.
That's it. All right, let's see what the next question is. All right, this one is from Ken. How do you control distance by swing length, speed, or choking down on the club?
Well, what you can do, and this would be kind of a tie-in to our scoring zone in a way, where let's say we see a lot of times where a player will say, well, I want to hit a partial wedge shot. They'll swing back to about here, but then on their finish, they'll go to here. Right. You know, it's going to dictate, or it's going to make the yardage carry always different. So, you know, for those of you that have a hard time dialing in yardage, well, try to match it here and match it here. And I'm not adding effort. You just want to swing your normal speed, but try to match them on whatever side you're on. Right. And then that's going to give you a little more consistent factor as far as how far that ball will go with that particular swing.
Right. Okay, this next one I think is from Bob. Let me see here. I've read where you had worked with Gardner Dickinson, and I read his book many years ago. Tell us about your go-to shot for 100 yards and in, as well as short pitches and chips. I've read in the past that you have specific simple shots you consistently use. Well, Bob, yeah, years ago, I spent time with Gardner. And we talked about a bunch of stuff. Hogan told him that he had to have a go-to shot. When he couldn't find the club face, he had to have one shot that he could do. Now, for me, I like to hit punch shots. So if I'm not having a very good day, I'm going to lean a little bit more left with the hands a touch more forward. And as I swing back, I'm going to try to stay more on top of the ball, and then I finish it out this way. Now, that's going to bring the flight down. And for me, that's how I hit my little punch cut. And I'll hit that with a 3-wood or a wedge.
Yeah.
It depends on the wind, if it's windy that day, or if I'm just not feeling it. So, and everybody's got a different one, right? So if you're naturally a high ball hitter, but you've been struggling trying to hit it low, your go-to shot's high, or vice versa. Right. So, and then a couple of the drills that we use for say, chipping, is we actually use 2x4s, and I'm going to use this little rod right now. So hopefully you guys can see this rod. Yeah, okay, you can see it. So what I'm going to do, and we like to use a 2x4 simply because of the height. It won't hurt you. It'll hurt your ego if you hit it, but it won't hurt you. So my whole goal when I set up to this for a little chip is I'm going to first set up with the ball kind of on my back ankle. I'm going to open the body lines and my feet. I'm going to lean a little bit left with the handle a little left, basically at my zipper. So when I move this back, my whole key is to not hit this white line. That means I'm dumping my wrist angle way too early and moving the club head. So what I want to do is just take this back, but I want to turn through the shot. So I'm picking it up, turning through. So it's not a pick up, push through with your hand. You'll notice that I'm actually turning to propel the hands forward. So that's kind of the shot that we teach a lot in chipping. We want the shot to get out and roll like a putt. It'd be the same thing if I was pitching, however. If I'm trying to hit a higher pitch shot, I'm going to set up with the ball more in the middle. I'm going to set my weight a little more in the middle, and immediately off the ball, I'm going to pick the club up and start opening the face. So if I do it from this angle, you see as I pick it up, I am trying to open the face as much as I can right there. So when you pick it up and you open the face that much, you certainly don't want to drag it through, because you might hit this sweet spot right here in the neck.
And it's not very sweet.
And it's not very big. So when you do that, and you pick it up, you open the face, as you come down, you've got to get this face coming back down, so you may feel like you're allowing the club head to pass your hands. It's not passing before impact, but it's actually just getting more back into a vertical line. And when you finish it with that little shot, the club face is facing upward, your hands are in close to your body, and your elbows, I don't know the best way to show this, maybe here, and my elbows are stuck into my body. They're not elongated out here. So it's like, pick it up, drop it down, pick it up. Okay? That's for what we call finesse wedges, inside of your normal distance.
A la the soft egg shot.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Okay. This one is from Christopher. In the full golf swing, in that the full golf swing is always initiated from the ground up, from the feet beginning the weight transfer to the bump and rotation of the hips. I would like some more clarity on how much all of that diminishes or changes as shots become less and less full, as in pitches and chips, all the way from zero movement on putts, except for shoulders and or hands. Okay, so the way I'm reading this is the full swing. We're starting from the ground up. We're putting the pressure in, and then everything is kind of a chain reaction into the golf ball. In these little finesse shots, I mean, you'll see the tour players do any number of shots. They do what I call a flat-footed wedge. They take it back, their upper torso turns, and you'll see their feet dead flat on the ground. You'll also see that their arms are folding inward again, just like I showed you earlier. In that particular case, you have your pressure already in your feet, and all you're doing is moving your upper body, and which is moving your arms and hands. If I'm going to get a little fuller pitch, you might want to feel like your arms are coming down and your body chasing. Maybe you might want to feel that. In the finesse wedge that we just talked about, basically it is all from the upper. In other words, what's starting first is my hands, followed by my club, followed by my chest and hips.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the sequence. So it's almost reversed to what a full swing is.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, it's a different, when you start doing finesse wedges and you know, you start looking at the shots the tour guys are hitting, always remember, we don't exactly know what type of trajectory or what type of shot they're hitting. So even though you may see Jordan Spieth hit a shot like this, and it may look like a fuller type motion, well, that doesn't mean that that's what he was trying to do as far as a standard shot.
Right.
So always remember, you know, there's different ways body can move, arms can move, hands can move to produce a certain type of trajectory.
Right. Okay, so next question. This one is from David. I have a weak left kneecap from the war. I play golf twice a week. I saw an exhibition of golf pro hitting balls with just his right leg, then his left. He balanced on one leg, then the other. I've tried all kinds of braces, nothing works, maybe 50%. Is there any instructor that can give advice or help on what this pro can do to help people like me? He also drives from both knees on the ground. Well, okay, so if he's hitting it on one leg and then the other, then he's hitting it from his legs, how much leg drive do you think he's using?
Right.
Nothing. He's basically using his arms and upper torso to swing clubs. So we have a drill for that, and we've given you guys this a couple of times. But as you're standing there, as you swing back, pick up your left foot, put it down, swing the club, pick up the right foot. So you pick it up, put it down, pick it up. And I have a bad left knee as well. So you have to remember, whatever position you put this knee in that hurts, don't put it there.
Right.
Okay? If keeping your knee flexed hurts that knee, then don't keep it flexed. Allow it to lose its flex as you're coming down.
Yeah.
Right?
See, with Chuck's bad, we're kind of a tandem here. He's got a bad left, I've got a bad left. Chuck can straighten his left knee and it doesn't hurt him. I can't straighten my left knee because it hurts me. So that's why at impact, when Chuck gets there, his lead leg is more straight where mine's more bent. Right? We both have figured out, well, that hurts or that hurts. Well, don't do it.
Yeah, just find a way that it doesn't hurt.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But again, you could still put pressure over here. It's just you have to put pressure in a way that it doesn't hurt. So that's going to involve either more bend or less bend.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to involve either more hip turn or less hip turn.
Yeah.
I can tell you that there are a lot of good players that set up. They take the club back basically with very little body motion. They fire their arms down and through, and their finish is right about here, hitting the full swing. That's what we would call that a hitter, right? Because swingers are actually using a lot of rotational force. A hitter's picking it up, driving it down, and they finish right about here.
I'll think of Arnold Palmer on the finish part.
Right. So you'll lose a little distance doing that, but it certainly will take the pressure off your lower half.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so next question. This one is from John. What is the best way to practice shots from 100 yards in? Okay. Well, we kind of already went through that, John.
Well, what I would do is make sure you spend time doing it two ways. Where one, you're spending part of your time working on a technique element. So let's say you have a tendency to swing and keep the weight back. Well, spend some time really focusing on weight forward or whatever technique it is you're working on. But spend the last half of that actually putting that into motion, if you will, where you find specific targets, practice hitting shots to those. So, if you've got a target green, let's say 50 yards away, well, after you work on your technique for a while, stand there and hit shots and say, okay, I want to see how many times out of 10 shots I can hit that 50-yard green on the fly, and then keep a record of that. So, the next time you go back out and practice, look at how many times it took you and try to beat it next time.
Right.
So you always want to try to spend some technique time, but then spend some time where you're kind of in the golf course setting.
And it's not always going to be your highest lofted wedge. You may find that 50-yard shot turns out to be a gap wedge or a pitching wedge.
Exactly. Because at that particular time when you're doing that, you're only focused on the task. What do you need to do to hit that green X number of times, or whatever your task is?
All right, and our last question is from Paula. For a shot from 100 yards or less, should my grip be in a neutral position? Well, your neutral is whatever angle your hand hangs at. We've done this many times as well. If your angle hangs like this, for example, and that's how it would go on the club, it would look like that. If your hand hangs like this, which I've never seen anybody do, then your hand would go on like that. So most people have an angle that their hand hangs. Bring the club over so it hangs at that angle. That's your neutral grip. I think that you're talking about, Paula, should you use a weaker grip? So if I wanted the club face to stay open a little bit longer to give me a little bit higher trajectory, I might rotate my target side hand under just a touch, not a lot, to help keep it from flashing over.
Yeah, definitely. You can even go the other side of it. If you need to try to hit it a little bit lower, you could strengthen it a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, you can play around with the grip position there, because that's going to change face position a little bit.
The one thing to talk about, whether you're hitting a wedge or whether you're hitting a full shot, is whatever grip you have. If the ball is curving, rotate your grip to the direction it's curving. So if you're hitting a lot of balls that curve to the right, rotate that left hand grip to the right. If they're drawing too much or curving to the left, then rotate that left hand more to the left. So always rotate your hands in the direction of the curve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be the easiest thing to do. Okay, well, that's all the questions we have today. We want to thank you guys. Red Friday again. Go Chiefs. We're getting it. Cowboys, sorry.
It's over.
It's over. you're done. You're done for the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. But a great game last night. A great game last night.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Rogers, a 65-yard in the air bomb.
I've got him on my fantasy team, so I was liking that.
All right, so yeah, any questions or any, be sure and send them to us. Also, subjects you want us to talk about, be sure and send those. We're winding down this year. We will not have the webinars the weekend of Christmas, nor the weekend of New Year's.
Yep.
Right? So anyway, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys.